get to the bag, ayy. Got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when the lane moving fast, ayy. Let them all cross. If they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss, ayy.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys, provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve, so you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Thursday, everybody. I got a very special guest for you guys. I'm going to bring him up here in just a minute. And, you know, I talk about a couple of key things that I've learned in business early on. And, you know, the hardest part for me has been systems development, right? Because it's like you have all these great ideas, but you don't know if any of them are going to work out for like 6 months, because it takes time to really start ironing things out. And the second one is financial literacy. I think that causes more businesses to not succeed than anything, because I think a lot of individuals go out there. Working hard isn't a problem, right? Like they know the job, they know the industry, they work hard, but understanding your finances and how that works, I think it's a big learning curve, especially one that I've had to go through. And we're going to break a lot of that down today. So I want to welcome Mr. Matt Rybak with Tank Payments on the show today. So Matt, thank you so much for taking the time to join me.
Howdy, Chris. Thank you for having me. I came in here today. I thought I was going to be just audio. Then I found myself on video. I was going to lie and tell your audience I'm in a suit and tie, a trucker hat. Here I am. You guys see me in the flesh. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I rock shorts and a polo every day. I live in Arizona, man. Like I've grown up in the Midwest, Matt. I wanted to move somewhere where I could wear shorts 12 months out of the year. And that's what I got in Arizona. And like the best part about it is you go into many office buildings around here, everybody's rocking shorts and a polo in the state of Arizona. So it's like, dude, I love the environment.
We always knew those crazy guys growing up in New Jersey where they would refuse to wear pants, like these fourth graders in shorts in December. It's like you're Arizona bound, I guess. It is what it is.
Yeah, that is same back in the Midwest, man. But, so, dude, let's start with what brought you into this space, man. Like, what was it about it that brought you into the transportation industry?
Yeah, really good question. My background was not originally in freight and transportation, but left my job at a corporate job at Amazon doing Alexa AI. And I thought, man, like I got to say yes to everything. At some point, me and my buddies actually went half and half on a trucking website. So, slinging ads, whatever else. I was up at night. This is before AI was legit. And I was writing articles about how to find good freight insurance, all the different kinds of it. Shout out to Kyle who helped me do all that. And then, before long, it was very clear that we ended up having an industry that just wasn't super educated, especially on some of the financial literacy, like you were saying, Chris. And so, I remember very clearly one time my co-founders and I started investigating like this adversarial relationship between factoring companies and their carriers. And we're like, man, why does that exist? And so that kind of led to a string of events where we wanted to increase, maybe lubricate the kind of communication and the cash flow between businesses and the financial stack. I call that the factor, broker, carrier stack. And that's been our mission ever since.
For me, you're bringing up a lot of truth, right? I think that there's a big misconception out there that like people are just going to give you money, right? Like money is never free. And, whether it's factoring, whether it's a line of credit at a bank, whether it's a credit card, anything, like money is not free. Access to capital is not free. And that's like a big shock to some people when they go out in business. And, I was talking to a buddy of mine at the gym this morning. He's another business owner locally here. And, he's been in business for a long time, right? Like 40 years. And I was talking to him about like the fact that I have to personally guarantee a lot of stuff in my business because I'm in year 6, right? And it's like you go out there and again, you go to apply for that first loan or that first business credit card or whatever that looks like. And they're like, yeah, cool. You, the individual, have to personally guarantee. We got to run your credit here quick. What do you mean my credit? And, again, it's those learning curves that are out there. And, most Americans are financially illiterate. Most people out there don't actually understand how money works and how you can utilize that for your benefit out there. So like, what were some of those key things that you guys learned early on where it's like, hey, this is a massive problem. Let's build the solution behind that.
Yeah, you know what? We were talking a minute ago before the show started about entrepreneurship, and like there is no shortage of entrepreneurship in freight. Whether you're a single truck owner operator, you're a brokerage running 100 million a month, whatever it might be. Everyone here is capable of applying themselves, working super hard. But one thing that maybe is missing sometimes is like helping others help you. And so you were saying, money isn't free. Money is not going to just arrive at your doorstep. What do you do to do it? I listened to your show. I think you had Lars over from Transflow on it. And it's like, yeah, I mean, of course, like money's not going to show up on your doorstep. You gotta bill right. I think you said it was the second most important thing you can do as a freight business is bill correctly. And then that'll help people pay you faster. All of a sudden your DSO is not, 55 days. It's a reasonable 35, whatever it might be. But I think a lot of that is the mechanizing the types of actions that help other people help you. Bottom line is, this is the financial back office we're talking about. This is typically your side hustle. You're out there trying to sling freight. You're not worrying about the back office most of the day. And so, a lot of what Tank wants to do is just take it off of your plate. If that can run in the background, if you can have a virtual employee remembering to do those things that help other people help you, then we're hoping that a little bit of friction can be removed in the process. But to answer your question, Chris, that kind of is the thing, right? It's like, are you putting in the time and effort to make sure that the money movement that has to happen and every single thing, this dumb stuff that has to happen upstream, is being taken care of to the right degree. So that's my answer to that question, Chris.
No, I look at it where running your operation, whether you're a carrier or a broker, and invoicing on time, because again, I think people think that you get paid 30 days after the load delivers. No, you get paid 30 days after they receive the invoice, right? Right. And like if you're, a solo operator, like you're talking about, dude, you're out there just like slinging, running and gunning. You might invoice once every week or once every 2 weeks, right? Whatever that looks like, because that's just when you've identified the time to do it. That's pushing out your days to pay. And then on top of it, that's if you invoice them perfectly. If it doesn't align with the way that they need to be invoiced, because again, depending on the size of the company that you work with, there are a lot of steps that your invoice has to look like and feel for them to even process your payment. Otherwise, they send it back to you. And then again, if you don't touch it for 2 weeks, like pretty soon you inadvertently cause your days to pay to go up to 60 or 70 days because you're not taking it in time. And this is where I think a lot of people, and this is why I am so confident in lean operations being the way of the future, is you're going to have people behind the scenes in automating in key roles that are going to improve billing efficiencies, right? And I'm not saying you got to replace your entire billing department now, but now like one AI bot or whatever could do the work of 5 people, and you still have that human verifying everything that's out there. And I think that, again, improving your operations, because we get so stuck in our day-to-day that we overlook what actual tools are at our disposal now, because the biggest death blow to a lot of organizations is, well, this is the way we've always done it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, just to react to that. I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, just to kind of back up a little bit. I mean, who even are we? We may, a lot of your folks on listening right now probably haven't heard of us yet, but it's, we try to be that financial back office for freight. Tank Payments is that financial back office automated. So it's the software plus the sort of banking infrastructure that automates how factors, brokers, and carriers, they pay out, get paid, and manage their cash. And so, that really is sort of the underlying principle of our entire business. And, the reality is, like, there have been tons and tons of software, even looking through your podcast episodes in the past, like how many of them focus on back office automation? It's almost like a joke at this point. It's like there's so many vendors who are out there doing it, and who works. We've heard good stories, we've heard unsuccessful stories, but I'll tell you what, when I go over to a large freight brokerage or a large factoring company or a fleet, and I'm like, listen, I can do your financial back office for you. I'll put some AI in there and automate it. They're like, oh my God, another thing I have to log into. Holy shit. And so, it did form a lot of like, okay, what makes Tank different? We came into this industry kind of after a lot of this money and software had been deployed. A lot of software businesses were up and running. And so we had to adapt. Like any business had to adapt to the realities and maybe the friction that's in the marketplace. And so we thought, okay, cool. What's our design philosophy? Ideally, Tank can work in the background. Boom, number one. Number two, maybe we don't have something you log into all the time. Maybe all we have to do is do stuff in the background. Imagine us like a virtual employee, but we raise our hand and tell a human to tap in on the hard stuff. And that's really true in brokerages. A lot of it is just paper pushing. Every once in a while, you have something that's going to cause a real alarm, and you have to have Debbie or Harriet take a look at that and make some phone calls and bust some kneecaps. But the idea is the majority of it really isn't like that. It requires judgment, but it is rote. So that was sort of Tank's philosophy. If we're going to be another player, another vendor in this back office automation space, what makes us different? And hopefully the idea is we can actually be a little bit more conscientious about when and when not to interact with Tank itself. You're in your TMS all day. You're on your phone all day. I don't want to add another thing for you to log into and click buttons in.
I think that a lot of freight tech companies, regardless of where they're, what side of the industry that they're on here, Matt, I think they have a lot of disdain to deal with from the actual operators, like the brokers and the carriers out here, because there's been so much that has been promised so like early on that fizzled out, right? And I think though, but then again, me being the optimistic realist that I am, that also creates a massive opportunity for somebody to get it right, where they can actually not add additional steps in. Because you're right. Like if I'm looking here as somebody who's trying to build their business up, if your software makes my day more complicated, I'm not signing up for it regardless, right? Because like I need ease. I need to build an operation that keeps me focused on RPAs. My RPA is revenue producing activities. All right. I need to be focused on that all the time because as you and I were talking on the phone last night, right? Like I'm on a limited financial runway every single month as a bootstrapped operator, right? Like I don't have a flush cash flow of investor money coming in. Like I am dollar in, dollar out every single month. So it's like, if I'm going to automate anything or if I'm going to bring in technology on any side of my business, it better free up my time so I can focus on the activities I need, which are most critical to my organization. And that is customer growth in whether it's new business development or customer growth with my existing customers to build that foundation up so I can build up that war chest.
100%. And it's even more than that, I think. I wrote an article recently because I was talking to a bunch of brokers and factors about, enterprise value. What does it mean to have my enterprise outlive me? And a lot of it is, shit, I'm growing. That's great. That's wonderful. But how am I going to keep it up? How am I going to have my customers expect the same level of service from me? How am I going to make sure that my continuity plan is held into effect? And so a lot of what I thought, the technology can be doing these days, especially, the word AI is a hot button issue. I hate hearing it myself, but the reality is that you can have technology now almost like protect against key man risk. If you have Debbie or Harriet and they're the only people who know how to apply cash or how to make sure they can make sense of that particular shipper rate con, then that at the end of the day, then that is, your focal point and your failure points are concentrated. And so a lot of what we think of is, if we're going to change how software is thought about, from again being a screen that you press buttons on to make back office stuff happen, what if we're able to kind of recreate a company brain, and we can say, the things that Debbie and Harriet know, and only they know, now everybody knows it because it's being applied time and time again by the software itself in the background. So it's not just, it's sure, efficiency gaining, that's the real kind of thing that people will sign up for, but there are downstream impacts too. And I'm curious to kind of hear from your perspective, Chris. How often do you hear that? How often do you hear enterprise value, this outliving me, the entrepreneur, kind of conversation, and what's the biggest risk to that?
Yeah, I think tribal knowledge is a death blow for a lot of companies because, like, you know, again, and you look at this, I've seen this time and time again, and whether I was working for a large freight broker or out on my own, a lot of the information is concentrated to a couple of individuals. And now if they're tech averse, they're not documenting any of that stuff. And if they're gone, the business essentially implodes, right? But then that same individual is bitching and complaining about how they can't go on vacation because nobody can do what they do, but they won't take the time to like document anything, right? Ironic, but you know, anyways, that's where I see a lot of this now, where it's like, I think that with technology and automation that's out there, you have to look at processes and systems. You have to look at that first, because if you have shitty processes and then you automate them, now you have automated shitty processes. You didn't actually fix anything. And that's where I think a major miss with a lot of people is they're like, oh, well, I bought this AI or I bought this automation software. I put our system in and it doesn't work, right? It's the software's fault. No, it's your fault as the person who developed that. Because, you know, again, back to what I talk about on, you know, I put out a lot of clips, Matt, about the unsexy side of entrepreneurship that doesn't get any traction on the internet. And my thing is, and I've talked about this and I mentioned it earlier, systems development is the hardest thing for me in business, because I don't know if it's not going to work out, if it's going to work for 6 months. And I look at our sales process, for example, and it's something that I have literally spent the last 8 months on, is why is our sales system not hitting at a level that it should? What are we doing wrong? Now, if I took our old sales system and automated it, it would amplify our output in the worst possible way, right? So it's like I'm looking at a lot of those things. How do I implement that? And how do I iron out a lot of our processes before we automate it? Now, what you can do, and this is something that we've done with simple Gemini, Google Gemini, is we've documented all of our processes, right? Like the ones that are working that we know that are great, our operations, how we communicate with our shippers, how we communicate with our drivers, the vetting process, all of that, we have that documented. All of that's ready and at our disposal, because if I get hit by a bus, my business needs to go on still, right? Like, and that's where I think this is where like the playing field does get leveled, but this is where those opportunities align, where lean organizations can pack a larger punch in the market now, because you have efficient processes and now you implement the right technology, and what would used to take 100 people, you can do it with 10 now.
And it's a funny thing you're saying. First of all, shout out to, you know, the dozens of Debbies and the dozens of Harriets who are holding up these freight businesses, because God knows what would happen without you guys. But what you're saying is absolutely true. The documentation, and again, you use Gemini for that. You know, it's really cool to do that. You're documenting, you're creating a foundation off which a lot of things can actually be built on top. And that is the cool thing. So for example, you know, one thing that we've been, you know, super pleased with is the launch of our cash posting tool. Pretty lightweight, really easy to figure out, but it's not software in the general sense. It's kind of saying, listen, like, here's an opportunity to train a brand new employee. Let's call them Debbie or Harriet. Train your own Debbie or Harriet on the tribal knowledge you have and get a literal job done. Because what you're saying is only half the battle, right? If you're documenting your processes, that's one thing. The second piece is putting it into action. Can there be something that's actually doing the entire job for you? And it was a cool realization when we ended up kind of doing this and saying, you know, we're gonna start working on accounts receivable, so getting paid for factors, for brokers, for fleets. And we saw the same thing happening. Just tribal knowledge was, you know, the key thing that prevented these entrepreneurs and business owners from taking vacation. And why is that? Because, you know, there wasn't that one foundational knowledge that had to get documented, and two, nothing was using that tribal knowledge that's been documented to get a job done. And so it was pretty cool to use it on a small portion of the accounts receivable process, which is posting cash in your accounting system. But that was awesome, right? You train this thing, it knows what to do, it uses best practices and hammers home a job that took people hours to do before the machines took it over. So it's not about, you know, it's not just documenting things. It's not about having total automation. It's just saying, can I use human-like judgment in certain parts of my business processes? So, you know, really good point you're bringing up. It's the first step of many.
And this might be, you know, stepping ahead to step 30, but the lyric from the late great Notorious B.I.G. comes up to mind here is mo money, mo problems. And I look at with where we're at in the market right now in regards to higher rates. I think what will be talked about on social media here in about 2 months, because that's normally what takes most people to catch up to what we talk about here on this show, people are going to not be able to afford to operate. And what I mean by that is lines of credit are going to be burnt up, whether it's from your customer, your fuel card, your, whatever that looks like, because now higher invoices are great, but credit lines get maxed out faster. Days to pay tend to get extended during this time, right? So your net 30, even if you're billing them perfectly, bleeds out to net 45, maybe 50, depending on the operation. I've been around for a while now. I've seen this happen personally. And I think that is the next problem that we are going to face. And when we see people talk about a capacity shortage and stuff like that, I think it's going to be more of like a regional thing where, I live out west here. Diesel is double here and in California compared to other parts of the country. And some of the carriers that we personally operate with don't come out west anymore because they're like, it's too expensive to fill up our trucks out there compared to what it is in the Midwest. And the pay is comparable now, right? Like we don't have to chase rates. The rates are here. And I think that that's going to cause an imbalance in the market at some point. But again, people aren't going to be able to afford to operate because eventually your banks aren't going to extend you any more credit. Your line of credit at the bank is going to be capped. Your fuel cards are going to be capped. Eventually it's going to reach that point. And I think that's what we're going to be faced with here in probably 60 days. You'll start seeing more and more people talking about it.
Yeah, it's funny you're saying that, Chris, because that is it's prescient, right? It's like cool, great, rates are higher, but I think people forget that definitionally, rates are higher because of things like a higher line item costs, right? You have your fuel surcharges, and so definitionally, everyone in the middle, the people who have to get fed as well, are making more money as well. It's not just the carriers winning or the brokers winning. So that's one of the things that I've noticed is we have data on thousands of freight carriers who use tank payments as a banking platform, and they perform all their payables and get their receivables from wherever, and then spend it on business operations and OpEx. The point is, it's crazy for us to actually see in metrics. Yes, the average ticket size, average invoice amount has gone up significantly, but man, look at their corresponding expenses. And it's especially fuel, right? But the reality is you're just working with larger numbers on both sides of the equation. So the smartest folks we have, and we've had these conversations, is listen, like, this is an opportunity. This is a moment for you to do a couple of things. Number one is, great, revenue's coming in. What do I do now to increase my margin relative to the rest of the industry? And that means cutting down on costs where I possibly can. Oftentimes, I think you asked a question to a different guest you had, is like, what's one thing that these carriers can do to kind of keep their expenses under control? And like, one thing that we continually find ourselves having to educate carriers on is use what's at your disposal. We find it mind-boggling that people are still choosing to use their Amex card at the fuel pump versus a fuel card, number one. Number two is like, there's lots of businesses trying to earn your business, whether it's hotel discounts, whether it's truck parking, whatever it is, use those things. Honestly, the way I see things going, those vendors selling you those things are going to go out of business way before you do. But while they're promotionally giving things away, use them. Do what you can to kind of keep those costs low. And so a lot of what we think about is, what does it mean for us to help a carrier manage their AP and AR to sustainable levels? And some of those strategies still do hold. Staying efficient now, I think, is going to be where a lot of winners get made in this market.
Yeah, I just had the Prime Advantage from Prime Inc. They're a large asset-based company out of Arkansas, and they started a fuel card for the industry. They've been running it for a while now, and there is no fees associated with that, right? So, I have a really good friend of mine. He's CFO of a very large company, and he says, and this completely changed the way I look at my P&L. And he had said, he's like, Chris, stop looking at the top ticket large items on your P&L. He's like, you thought about them, you debated them, you know about them. He said, pay attention to those small recurring subscriptions that fly under the radar. He's like, you got to think of it as a death by 1,000 cuts. Very rarely is there one death blow expense that puts you out of business. A lot of times it's a lot of little things, $8 subscriptions, $20 subscriptions that you forget that you signed up for that add up over time. And we're talking, I mean, how much, I mean, you got to think about it, right? It sounds small in comparison to a lot of people, but what would an extra $3,000 to $5,000 a quarter do to your operation? Whether it's building up your emergency fund, setting money aside for taxes, whatever that looks like. Think about it from that perspective, because a lot of people look at the transaction, they don't look at the life cycle. If you let something at $20 or $40 go, and then you compound that on 5 subscriptions over a 12-month cycle, we're talking about thousands of dollars at that point. And that will bleed out your organization. Talking about managing the float right now, right? Your revenue's up, your profitability is kind of remaining around the same, where now that float, if your customers' days to pay start to extend, there's that cushion, there's that financial cushion. It just, all it took is you logging into a subscription and hitting cancel.
100%. I mean, this is an opportunity to avoid baking in bad habits in good times. If you can prevent yourself from doing that and kind of stop yourself correct course, then I think you're going to be in a better position. Again, I'm not an operator. I simply see my client's P&L. And that is one thing that strikes me as obvious. Use this transitionary time where we have inflated rates, increased costs, to figure out what margin means for you right now, but also 6 months from now, 12 months from now, when things get different. So definitely a good call out from you. And, a lot of what I find out too is like, it's very interconnected. So, I mentioned the carrier a minute ago, but the carrier is just one piece of the domestic freight stack, right? It was actually kind of an interesting thing to realize. We started the business by saying, you know what, we have to figure out how to make it easier for carriers to get paid by their factoring companies, make it worth their time, make it a pleasant experience, make it an obvious choice. And it was, when you realize that, one player's AP, the factor's AP is another player's AR, the carrier's AR, and you see how brokers get involved in this too. The broker's AP becomes the factoring company's AR or the carrier's AR. That interconnectedness is what kind of is important to note too. No player in freight exists in a vacuum. And so that's one thing that we had to struggle with. Can Tank Payments, the startup 4 years ago, deal with 3 different personas, right? Can we satisfy 3 different customers? But that visibility and what happens between different entities in the stack is a huge value too. So the point is, even though carriers right now are feeling the most acute maybe challenges with inflated rates and higher costs, that's all going to move upstream and downstream from that carrier as well. So the interconnectedness of freight is tremendous. And it's a huge asset in many cases. Businesses that can kind of see the clearer picture can win. But the point is, not just carriers, everyone's going to feel it very soon in one way or another.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting here as the year progresses, right? And I'm like, obviously, I'm about higher rates. I'm about everybody making more money. Like, I'm a capitalist, but like at the end of the day, we have to understand that knowing how your money works is such a hurdle that I think a lot of people maybe don't think about as a business owner. They're like, oh, I made $20,000 last week. Did you actually make $20,000? Like if you're looking at all of that stuff. And, that's the thing is that, there's so many great books out there too, Matt. And I know we're kind of up on time, but like, there's so many great books out there that talk about that's the importance of set it and forget it in like the automation aspect of things, right? Yeah. When you get paid, there's software out there that, if you want to have a savings, an emergency fund, and a tax account and checking account for your business, every time a deposit hits, it splits it up for you. And your bank might offer stuff like that, right? So I think like in today's environment, if you don't you just got to start and wave the white flag, right? Just be like, I need help. Somebody please come help me with this. Yeah. I want to stay in business. And that's all it takes, right? Like I have a lot of great people who come on this show who offer it up. They're like, dude, you don't need to sign up for me, but if you have a question, call me, email me. Like, I'll talk you through it. You don't need to be my customer to get access to this information.
That's such a good point. And, talking to your vendors, I know it sounds crazy. It's not all about just shaking you down. It really is not. It's a matter of saying, we need you to stay in business. How can we help you stay in business? What can we do to provide support in your day to day? But that's exactly right. And keep doing that. Any advice would be, unsolicited advice here would be saying, talk to your vendors about what you're looking for. Waving the white flag is the wrong term for that, because it's not surrender. It's just saying, I want to take advantage of what's new. Right? I want to take advantage of things that my biggest competitors, the largest, most sparkly companies in this space, are taking advantage of, and do that. If you guys are thinking about, what it means to make my financial back office, the office of the CFO, everything that they care about, into a more of a sustainable unit, talk to us. We have some competitors in the space. Talk to us. But the point is, you have to understand what you want to get out of it too. So I definitely want to encourage folks, from the factoring companies to the freight brokerages to the carriers themselves, to kind of understand, where should we start? Our job at Tank was saying, we're not going to fix your business, but if it has to do with your financial back office, we can probably help. And that's a cool way to kind of approach the problem from a consultative standpoint, if that makes sense. So very good point, Chris. Use people. This is a teach and be taught kind of environment, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. Matt, thank you so much for your time today. I told you this was going to fly by, man. How does anybody reach out to you to find out more about what you got going on?
You can always email me at matt@tankpayments.com. That's matt@tankpayments.com. But again, it's nice to talk to you. Shout out to the guys from SPI. They introduced me to you. I've been listening to your stuff for the past couple of months now, and I want to tell you, on behalf of your entire audience, thanks for doing this. I mean, it's a cool thing to do. Educate, the broader swath of freight on brand new topics that matter. So again, thanks on behalf of all your listeners.
No, thank you so much, Matt. That is going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. If you guys can't find Matt or Tank Payments out there, hit me up. I will gladly put you guys in direct contact with them. As always, if you got value in what you heard and you're not subscribed, subscribe to the show, you guys. And if you're feeling ambitious, rank that show on iTunes and Spotify, because if you see value, chances are your network's going to see it as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And we'll be talking to you soon.
Came back with a bang, window down, yelling out money in it.